What's up? What's up? We have a special video here today. I have a brother here who needs no introduction. Awesome brother. So I'm gonna go ahead and let him introduce himself. How you doing, Obadele?
Everything is blacktastic, magnificent, blackerific, and spectacular here on the correct side of the ocean in Ghana. As he mentioned, my name is Dr. Obadele Kambon. I'm head of section at the Language, Literature, and Drama section of African Studies. Also a research fellow, about to be senior research fellow there, got up for the promotion. There we go.
Awesome.
And then also I was installed at Repatriaton Mampon as the Bamuchidomhene, which is a traditional ruler. So, with that comes a lot of responsibility. And I'm a repatriate, husband to Kala Kambon, father to Ama Kwekuna Kosia Kambon. So that's just in a nutshell, just a little bit about myself.
When did you come to Ghana? And first of all, where are you and your family from? And when did you guys come to Ghana?
Okay. So we're from all of Africa. All right. We were born not here, but I was born in Brooklyn, New York, like my father. My mother was born in Harlem, New York. Right. And when you say Brooklyn, that's just another way of saying Caribbean. When you say Harlem, that's another way of saying the South. And It's kind of like when people had the migration both from the Caribbean, a lot of folks headed to Brooklyn out of the Caribbean. When folks had the migration out of the South after, enslavement, a lot of folks just went to Harlem. So for me, it's kind of just a Pan-African background in and of itself. Right. So I was born there, but I was actually raised in North Carolina, which is where my mother's side of the family moved up from. So we grew up just one county away from the same place where my mother's side of the family had been enslaved, Johnston County. Whoa. So a lot of family there. And my great-grandmother had 14 brothers and sisters. So we had a lot of great aunts and great uncles and cousins and everybody around. So, but my parents, they realized that this is 1979, I was born. They saw Ronald Reagan coming in. They saw the drugs starting to come in. So Brooklyn, at one point in time, you could walk into somebody's house and it was really community. But he said, this is really changing, the drug culture, all the things that you hear about now in reflection. But they saw it on the way in. So they said, you know what? We need to do for self. We're talking about African, we're talking about self-sufficiency. So they went and bought their own land, built a log cabin, out in the woods themselves by hand, chainsaws and all that, laying the logs, dug their own water source, grew their own food. Never had a furnace. We always had a pot-belly stove to heat, in the winter. But that's something that I think is really unique about my family. You have people who give lectures all their life, and their children are like, you saying, let's be African, let's do for self. But then you in the suburbs chilling with whatever in Walmart. But for me, one reason that I really have a lot of respect for my parents is that I could say that with sincerity, they were actually trying to live out some of the ideals that they said that they were about. So, yeah. North Carolina, went to school in Atlanta, school in Wisconsin, taught in Chicago. Then I repatriated here in 2008. After I had first come in 1998, my mother brought me here in 98 for the Sanford journey. And that's really, for a lot of people, a gateway. So a lot of people who I know who I've encouraged to repatriate, they took the Sanford journey, and it really changed my life. You see where I am now. You see I got the Sanford right here, bam. But this is really, my mother exposing me to something more than just the U.S. Right. And she came here first in 1972 with now passed away Nana Dinizulu. And reconnecting with who we are as African people and what that is to be African.
Wow. We don't see a lot of young brothers here from the diaspora that's raising their children. So what's the significance in that, and how does that make you feel being amongst the few of us here, trying to build a family here in Africa?
For me, a lot of my repatriation story is centered around wanting my children to have a different type of experience from just what they would get in the U.S. Right. A feeling of freedom. So we hear about Tamir Rice, a little boy who was playing with a toy gun and got shot. You understand? Exactly. Trayvon Martin. We hear these stories. And I was sitting at a bridge holding my son in my arms, and it just dawned. It was at night, and just the breeze, and everybody was chilling, and it just dawned on me, I don't have to worry about him getting shot because he's black.
It's true.
Or rather because they're white. That's the real reason. And that's something that you can't pay for, you know. I had a friend who we went to undergrad together, and he repatriated. He was here for like about 5 years before he went back. But he said that it's funny the way he phrased it. He said, this is how it must feel to be white in America. To just be like moving around and not worried about somebody going to stop you because you're black, or people going to follow you in the store. Because he's like, at some point, he wasn't even thinking about stuff like that.
Exactly.
Or you're driving and the police are behind you and your heart doesn't skip a beat. Because it's just like they're going wherever they're going. They're not trying to harass you and go on a fishing trip or plant stuff on you, you know, this type of thing. So, you know, that's what I want for my children. You know, the motto of Ghana is freedom and justice. And then once we understand that we're African, you know, it moves us beyond just, okay, let me be around other people out of the U.S. or whatever. Because, you know, my daughter, she's 10, you know, my son is 5, my youngest is 3. But just to get to the point of, you know what, my daughter already speaks Chi and writes Chi and reads Chi and has her website and her assignments in Chi. She also does that for Yoruba, you know, reads, writes, speaks, does storytelling, all type of stuff in Yoruba. We're working on Wolof, Medinecha. She, of course, has the English. That's, you know, off the bat. But it's just exposing them to different things, you understand, so that they can have more options and more opportunities than they would, you know, in the U.S., being a second-class citizen.
Can you tell us a little bit about your school? Can you tell us the meaning of the name, and also what's the vision for the school for the future?
Right. So you see here this big Abibi Fahondie. Now this is for Capoeira. We have the other one for Aditiambia, that's a school, and another one for Abibi Tumikasa. And Abibi Fahondie translates to African liberation. And the other one has Aditiambia, that's the school. Okay. So when we're talking about African Liberation School, this is what we are all about. You know, we're living in a time of chaos, a time where everything is upside down. You know, those who cheat and are corrupt and are lying and all these types of things, they're the ones who are running the world. So for us as African people to ever have actual African liberation, it's about restoring ma'at, truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, order, balance, reciprocity, propriety, all these ideas of what it is to be right and live right and do right and speak right. So for my children, this is what we're all about. And, you know, when people saw some of the videos we had online, they saw Amma, she was doing teaching vegan food preparation in Chi. Then she would subtitle it herself in English. Then she would do English and subtitle it herself in Chi. And people were like, you know what? I'd like this for our children. And we said, yeah, that's exactly what we need to do, because let's say our children are so far ahead, but then they got to interact with other people whose children are going to be hitting them upside the head, robbing them, because they don't have that type of background. They don't have that type of, you know, situation. So just the idea was we have to extend what we're doing beyond just us. You know, we're not in a bubble. We can't be in a vacuum and have our children getting it where other people's children don't get it. So once we're able to extend it, just this morning we had the capoeira, the children who are right next door. We had like 5 or 6 of them running up in, you know, doing the exercises, doing the capoeira, doing the movement. And, you know, that's really what it's all about, is extending beyond just our own selfish interests to, if we say we're about African liberation, it needs to show up in how we behave and how we act.
You've been doing some great things in the community. I mean, you have a lot of accomplishments, and I want you to please literally just go down a list of the things that you've done here, starting off with the University of Ghana.
So I decided to do my PhD. That was part of my plan before I came. I said I'm going to come here, enroll in the PhD program.
Oh, really?
And actually succeed at it, and that's what I did. So I had gotten 2 master's degrees in the U.S., of course, bachelor's, so I went to Morehouse for undergrad. Then I got a master's in African languages and literature and another master's in linguistics. That's both at a University of Wisconsin-Madison. And initially I was planning on doing my PhD there in African languages and literature, but I had my supervisor, who interviewed me and said, yeah, I'm the best thing, whatever. She ended up blocking me from getting my committee together because she had a sense that I didn't like white folks. I don't know where she got that from. But and she was married to one, by the way, so that's, and I found that out from a mutual colleague who told him that, just in a off the record setting, but he said, yeah, that's what went on. That's why she blocked you from getting your committee together. So I ended up going to Chicago. I taught at Chicago State, taught at Malcolm X College, Betty Shabazz International Charter School, New Concept, Charles Hamilton Houston, Winnie Mandela. I was at all these places, but, I decided to come here, did my PhD, and lo and behold, I got the Vice Chancellor's Award for the best PhD thesis in that year.
Wow.
And that's the first time that an African from the diaspora has, of course, gotten that particular award, because there's only one per year in the humanities.
Wow. Awesome.
So that was one. And then I ended up deciding to stay on and teaching at Institute of African Studies in the Language, Literature, and Drama section. And now I'm the head of that section in African Studies. That's also, to my knowledge, the first time an African from the diaspora has held, that type of position there.
Wow, awesome.
And then 2016, I won the Provost Award for the best publication in the humanities. And that was on an article about language learning, motivation and language learning. And I came out basically with a new theory that is that we can look at language learning as acquisition, and that's how it's usually done, acquiring another language. And as when you do it like that, you're basically dealing with things like, how do you get more possessions? I said, that's just an analogy. Why are we locked into the box of seeing it like a possession to be, taken or gotten or whatever?
I see.
We can look at it like a journey. So I was saying, let's look at it as migration. What's pulling you to learn the language? What's pushing you away from it? What's pulling you towards your own first language or pushing you away from it? And all of those factors in migrating away from one place to another.
Right.
It's just another analogy. And from that, we can see things in an entirely different way, just in terms of where are you in that journey towards this language that you're, learning. And then other things, other accomplishments. We had a panel, an academic panel, where it was entirely in Chi, where the questions and answers were in Chi, where, this is something that hadn't been done before. Also, I was one of the ones who advocated for the very first PhD thesis to be defended in Chi. They were saying, okay, you may be able to write it, but you have to defend it in English. And it came up at the same time we were arguing for the panel in Chi that no, it should also be defended. That was my former supervisor who said, if we're going to let the panel go through in Chi, then we should also let her defend her thesis in Chi. So these are all types of things that we're doing at the university. I also have the Black History Month Film Festival that I coordinate there, the weekly film series that I coordinate there, a Medu Neter study group where people can learn what they call ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, what was originally called Medu Neter. So we had capoeira classes at the university for some years. We're now doing them at the Lion House, but that was another thing, another initiative, because everybody knows about Taekwondo and Kung Fu and Karate and so forth and so on, but they have no idea that we have our own combat sciences. And, that's one of my hobbies, is to beat up people who do all these Eurasian sciences and martial arts and whatever, and let them know, no, there's levels to this thing. And that the African one is effective and even more effective than some of these folks. Had a guy came up, I'm a second degree black belt, ha ha ha, karate, ha ha ha, boom. Ended up kicking him to a jaw. He wasn't talking so much. But, people try to, they had the song Brand Nubian Punks Jump Up to Get Beat Down. You think all this white stuff and Eurasian stuff you're doing is so great. But we just have to know that what we have, is serious. You understand? That's what we do.
Yeah, I actually love that class, brother, because it's serious.
You were doing good. I remember we were doing the knife disarms and other stuff. So, yeah.
You was taught by someone from Brazil, right?
Yeah, I actually went to Brazil, studied for a month, but the main teacher that I had was called Valental. He was a former Marine, but he was in Chicago. And one thing that you find is that in the U.S., the way a lot of people approach capoeira is like either as a game or as a ritual or as Afro-Brazilian cultural acrobatics or aerobics. Let's just get in shape or whatever. But when you read the history, this is what people were using to defend themselves in war. They had the Triple Alliance War, and they defeated their enemies, trench warfare, all this type of stuff.
Right.
But if you see people do capoeira now, it could never accomplish what was being done at that point in time because they had to water it down to get it legalized again. So now a lot of people think the watered down thing is traditional. People who do capoeira Angola or capoeira regional, that you actually have interviews of like Mestre Pastinha where he was saying, all right, we're going to take the grappling out in order to make it more genteel and more acceptable. So it's that can't be traditional, but you have people who they're coming to it with the grappling already removed and they're like, oh, this is how it's always been. You understand? But it was a lot of the social situation in Brazil. So what we're doing is actually trying to restore it to the objectives of those who did it before. They were trying to defend themselves. They were trying to defend their family. They were trying to defend their race. They were trying to,
Right.
So if that's your objective, then that's going to give you a vastly different solution from, all right, I'm just trying to do what people in Brazil are doing.
Right.
Or I'm just trying to get it legalized. That these are entirely different goals that are going to send you on entirely different paths.
Right, exactly. And you was mentioning Tree.
Right.
Just for our audience, there's multiple languages here in Ghana.
Right.
What makes Tree the main language?
Very good. So ethnically, the main ethnic group in Ghana is the Akan people. And Chi, so Akan is also the language. Now underneath Akan you can picture Akan as the umbrella, and then underneath that you have Asante Chi, which is most widely spoken variety of Akan, Ekwapim Chi, and Fanti. Actually the order Asante, and then Fanti, and then Ekwapim. And these are what they call the literary dialects, meaning that you can go and read books in all of these dialects.
Wow.
But then you have other dialects that aren't, written down per se. So you have like Aguna, Denchira, I can go down the whole list, Achim. And to some degree you can say, okay, the Achim patterns like the Asante.
Okay.
Bono, so all these other ones. But for Akan, because it's the dominant ethnic group, most people either speak it as a first language, and you see some percentages, 46% as first language, and then some people give as high as 70%, 80% as a second language.
Okay.
And I travel to other places, and if you find a Ghanaian community, they'll be speaking Chi. From my own experience, go to Burkina Faso, they say, where are you coming from? Ghana. You go to the Ghana community, everybody's communicating in Chi. Now you have Ghan people, you have people from the north, whatever, but Chi becomes that lingua franca.
Exactly.
Same thing in Mali. Found the Ghana community there, everybody's communicating in Chi. The Ghana Association in Wisconsin, where I went to school, people speaking in Chi. So you have Ewe's there, you have Ghans there. Now, one of the challenges is because of a lot of the history, especially Asante being known as quite warlike and things of that nature, it's very difficult for people to just say, let's get on the bandwagon, let's all just promote Chi. So people would rather say, let's all be under English than to say, all right, let's lift up one African. And it's really indicative of where we are as a people, that rather than let any African rise, we'd rather have us all be subjugated to a common enemy. So, yeah.
Coming to Ghana could seem a little overwhelming to people. I heard that you have a system that can assist people. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we actually launched the website, our soft launch, meaning that you can go there now. We're going to do a hard launch where we're going to, promote and have people come out. It's called repatriateToGhana.com. And when you go there, you can see the FAQs, frequently asked questions. I'll do consultation for free. And there's also paid options as well for those who want to go more in depth and have more of that type of relationship and information. But again, what the repatriateToGhana.com is all about is assisting people, because I see so many repatriates who have horror stories, who come here with $30,000 and then within a year that's gone.
Yep.
And like, where did that go? Now, just for me, just even doing the free consultation, that will save you a lot of heartache of, you mentioned the story of people being robbed and things like that, that there are certain things that, all right, you may not want to be in this community.
Right.
Just these tips and things like that can save a lot of people a lot of the heartache and then a lot of the money as well. So that's basically what it's all about. We're kind of trying to be like the Harriet Tubman, right?
Right.
But instead of the Underground Railroad, we have the Undercloud Railroad. You're flying in,
Yep.
And I think we have a responsibility to assist others,
true.
even those who can't afford it. We're willing to do the free consultation, but of course my time is valuable. All the experience. So those who are interested in getting more in depth, We'll have weekly, I can discuss some of the things.
Right.
Also got citizenship back in 2016.
Yep,
Well,
congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Right.
Shook hands with the president of Ghana as he handed that document to me to say, I'm not giving you anything, I'm restoring your birthright, what is yours.
Right.
That, all of that came out of the work of an elder, Dr. Maulana, in the community. And we were hosting at African Studies what he called the Ministry of the Future. And it was really his own personal connections to the executive secretary of the president of Ghana at that time.
Okay.
But we started these monthly meetings, and I made African Studies available so that we can discuss what we need to do as African people, regardless of location, Black people regardless of location. And then from that, one thing led to the other. And next thing we know, we got a call that, on this date, you're getting your citizenship.
Wow.
So it's very major, especially for my great-grandfather who was in the UNIA, Marcus Garvey, back to Africa. So I really see myself not only repatriating, but getting citizenship as an extension of, some of his hopes and dreams and aspirations way back in the 20s and 30s. So, yeah.
Wow. All right, y'all. So that's it for now. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the notification button, and leave your comments. Until next time, peace.
Yeah.